No one was watching. The cameras had shut down. The rain was falling. But John Wayne heard the word veteran and turned back, and the next 60 seconds mattered more than any film he ever made. November 1971. Burbank, California. The Warner Brothers backlot. 6:45 in the evening. The kind of cold rain that doesn't announce itself with thunder or drama. Just persistent. Steady. The kind that soaks through everything and makes you want to be somewhere else. The crew had wrapped for the day. Lights were off. Equipment covered with tarps. The western set, false front saloons and hitching posts, stood empty and silent in the rain, looking exactly like what it was, wood and paint pretending to be history. John Wayne walked across the wet asphalt toward his car. He was 64 years old. His left lung was gone, surgically removed 8 years earlier when they'd found the cancer. He'd beaten it, supposedly. Kept working. Kept making movies. Kept being John Wayne because that's what John Wayne did. But he was tired. The kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. The kind that accumulates in your bones when you've spent 40 years being bigger than yourself. He wore a dark jacket. No costume. No cowboy hat. Just a man walking through the rain toward his car at the end of a long day. Behind him, near the studio building's side entrance, stood an elderly man. Maybe 70. Thin. Wearing an old military-style jacket that had seen better decades. No umbrella. Hair plastered to his head by rain. He'd been standing there for 40 minutes, waiting. Security had asked him to leave twice. He'd moved to the edge of the property line but hadn't left. Wayne was 15 feet from his car when the man spoke. Not loudly. Just loud enough. Mr. Wayne. Wayne kept walking. He heard people call his name 100 times a day. Fans. Autograph seekers. People who wanted something. He'd learned to keep moving. Mr. Wayne, I'm a veteran. Wayne's right foot came down on wet pavement. His left foot started to follow. Then stopped. He stood there for 3 seconds. Rain falling on his shoulders. Water dripping from the studio roof somewhere behind him. The sound of distant traffic on Olive Avenue. Then he turned around. Wayne didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. The elderly man was still standing near the building, 20 yards away. Not moving closer. Not approaching. Just standing in the rain, hands at his sides. Wayne walked back. Not quickly. Deliberately. The way a man walks when he's made a decision and distance doesn't matter. He stopped 6 feet from the man. Close enough to see his face clearly. Far enough to respect the space between them. Which war? Wayne asked. His voice was quiet. Level. The voice of someone asking a question that matters. Second World, the man said. His voice shook slightly. Not from fear. From something else. Pacific Theater. Guadalcanal. Tarawa. All the way to Okinawa. Wayne nodded once. Slow. Then he did something the man didn't expect. He removed his jacket. Took it off in the rain, water immediately soaking into his shirt. He held the jacket out. You're getting soaked, Wayne said. The man stared at the jacket. Mr. Wayne, I can't. Take it. The man took the jacket with trembling hands. He didn't put it on. Just held it like it was something sacred. They stood there in the rain. 2 men. 64 and 70. One famous. One forgotten. Rain falling on both of them equally. What's your name? Wayne asked. Ernest. Ernest Calloway. Ernest Calloway. Wayne repeated, like he was filing it away somewhere permanent. You came here to see me? I came here to tell you something, Ernest said. He reached into his jacket pocket, his own jacket, not Wayne's, and pulled out a small metal object. Dog tags. Old ones? The chain was tarnished. The tags were scratched and dented. He held them out so Wayne could see. The name stamped into the metal was barely legible, PFC Ernest Calloway. I carried these through 3 years of hell, Ernest said, his voice stronger now. And when I came home in 45, nobody cared. No parades for us. No welcome. Just go back to your life. Forget it happened. Don't talk about it. Wayne listened. Didn't interrupt. Didn't look away. I watched your movies, Ernest continued. Sands of Iwo Jima. The Fighting Seabees. Back to Bataan. And I know what people say, that you never served. That you made war movies but never went to war. People hold that against you. Wayne's jaw tightened. This was the wound he'd carried for 30 years. The guilt that no amount of success could erase. He'd been exempt from service, family deferment, then overage. But that didn't stop the whispers. Didn't stop the veterans who looked at him with contempt. Didn't stop him from feeling like a fraud every time he put on a uniform for a camera. I need you to know something, Ernest said. He took a step closer. Your movies, they mattered. Not because they were real, but because they remembered. When the rest of the country wanted to forget we existed, your movies showed people what we did. They weren't perfect. They weren't documentary. But they didn't let us disappear. Wayne's eyes were wet. Not from rain. I never forgot you, Mr. Wayne, Ernest said. And you never forgot us. That's why I came. To say thank you? For remembering. Subscribe and leave a comment, because the most important part of this story is still unfolding. The rain kept falling. Wayne stood there, soaked, looking at this elderly man who had carried dog tags through 3 years of combat, and then carried them for 26 more years of being ignored. I should have gone, Wayne said quietly. I should have been there with you. You did what you could with what you had, Ernest said. That's all any man can do. Wayne looked at the dog tags in Ernest's hand. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card. His personal card. Not the studio's. His home phone number was written on the back in pen. Ernest Calloway, Wayne said, handing him the card. You call that number. Anytime. You need something, anything, you call. And if I'm not there, you leave a message and I will call you back. That's a promise. Ernest took the card with the same reverence he'd taken the jacket. Mr. Wayne, I don't need anything. I just needed to tell you. I know what you needed to tell me. Wayne interrupted gently. Now I'm telling you something. You're not forgotten. Not by me. You call that number. He held out his hand. Ernest shook it. The handshake lasted longer than it needed to. Long enough for something to pass between them that didn't have words. Wayne picked up his jacket from where Ernest had draped it over his arm. Put it back on. Soaking wet. Didn't matter. You get home safe, Wayne said. That's an order. Ernest smiled for the first time. A small, tired smile. Yes, sir. Wayne nodded once more, then turned and walked back to his car. Got in. Started the engine. Sat there for a moment with his hands on the steering wheel, rain hammering on the roof. Then he drove away. Ernest Calloway stood in the rain, holding a business card and a promise, watching the taillights disappear. Away from the cameras, Wayne made a choice no one expected. 3 days later, Ernest Calloway called the number on the card. He didn't expect anyone to answer. Famous people don't actually answer their phones. John Wayne answered on the third ring. They talked for 40 minutes. Wayne asked about Ernest's war. About Guadalcanal. About what happened after. Ernest asked about Wayne's films. About the technical details. About what it was like to pretend to be a soldier when you wished you'd been one. That first call turned into a second. Then a third. Once a month for the next 8 years, Ernest Calloway would call, and John Wayne would answer. Sometimes they talked about the war. Sometimes about movies. Sometimes about nothing important at all. Wayne never told anyone about the calls. No publicity. No press releases. No stories about John Wayne's secret friendship with a veteran. It wasn't for the cameras. It was just two men who understood something about each other that no one else needed to know. In 1976, Ernest Calloway died. Heart attack. 75 years old. His daughter called Wayne to let him know. Wayne asked if he could attend the funeral. She said yes, but warned him there wouldn't be many people there. Ernest had outlived most of his friends. Wayne came anyway. Sat in the back row. Didn't make a speech. Didn't draw attention to himself. Just came. Just sat. Just honored the man who had stood in the rain to tell him he mattered. After the service, Wayne asked Ernest's daughter if he could have something from his father's belongings. She brought him the dog tags. The same ones Ernest had shown him in the rain 5 years earlier. "He wanted you to have these," she said. "He told me before he died. He said you'd understand why." Wayne took the dog tags. Held them the way Ernest had held them. Like they carried weight beyond their metal. But what followed would stay with everyone who witnessed it, forever. John Wayne carried Ernest Calloway's dog tags in his pocket for the last 3 years of his life. Through the filming of The Shootist, his final film, where he played a dying gunfighter facing the end with dignity. Through his cancer returning. Through surgery and treatment, and the slow acknowledgement that this time, he wasn't going to beat it. When Wayne died in June 1979, the dog tags were in his jacket pocket. His family found them during the funeral preparations. No one knew whose they were at first. Then someone remembered the business card in Ernest's daughter's possession. The phone number on the back. The connection. The family decided to bury Wayne with Ernest's dog tags. A secret kept between two men who had understood something about service and sacrifice, and the different ways a man can serve. Years later, a journalist researching Wayne's life discovered the story. Tracked down Ernest's daughter. Asked about the phone calls, the friendship, the dog tags. "My father never met John Wayne until that day in the rain," she said. "And after that day, John Wayne never let him be forgotten again. That's the man he was. Not the cowboy. Not the war hero he played in movies. Just a man who understood that sometimes turning back matters more than walking forward." The story stayed quiet for decades. No headlines. No TV specials. Just a story passed between people who understood what it meant. In a small cemetery in North Hollywood, there's a headstone for Ernest Calloway. PFC, United States Marine Corps. Below the dates of his birth and death, there's a line added by his daughter. Remembered. And 3,000 miles away, in a cemetery in Newport Beach, John Wayne rests with a set of dog tags in his pocket that aren't his own. Two men. One who fought and was forgotten. One who didn't fight and never forgot. Share and subscribe. Some stories deserve to be remembered. The rain that fell on November 1971 has been gone for more than 50 years. The Warner Brothers backlot has been rebuilt a dozen times. The western set where John Wayne stood that evening doesn't exist anymore. But the choice he made, to turn back, to listen, to remember, that remains. Not in any film. Not in any script. In the 60 seconds when no one was watching, and a man heard the word veteran, and decided that mattered more than getting out of the rain. That's what made him more than a legend. That's what made him a man. In 2024, a film historian discovered something in the Warner Brothers archives. A security log from November 1971. A single-line entry. Civilian Ernest Calloway waiting at Gate 4. Requests to see Mr. Wayne. Approved by J.W. personally. The historian tracked down the security guard who wrote that entry. He was 91 years old, living in a retirement home in Pasadena. "I remember that night," the old guard said. "Cold rain. End of my shift. This old guy standing there getting soaked. I told him Mr. Wayne had left for the day. He said he'd wait. I was about to call it in when I saw Wayne's car come back around. Wayne came back? He'd driven to the gate, then turned around. Drove back to where the old man was standing. Got out of his car in the rain. They talked for maybe 5 minutes. Then Wayne shook his hand, got back in his car, and drove away. The old man stood there crying. Not sad crying. Something else. The historian asked what happened next. I asked the old man if he was okay. He showed me a business card. Said John Wayne gave him his personal number. Said John Wayne told him he mattered. Then he asked me something I've never forgotten. What did he ask? He asked me, "Do you know what it's like to be invisible for 26 years and then suddenly be seen?" I didn't know what to say. So I just walked him to his car. Made sure he got home safe. The security guard died 3 months after that interview. But before he did, he told the historian one more thing. That night changed how I saw everything. I was just a security guard. Nobody special. But if John Wayne could stop in the rain for one old veteran nobody cared about, then maybe how we treat people when nobody's watching is the only thing that actually matters. The historian published the story. It didn't go viral. It didn't trend. But it spread quietly, the way certain truths do. Among veterans. Among people who understand that honor isn't loud. And somewhere, in a box in someone's attic, Ernest Calloway's daughter still keeps the business card with John Wayne's phone number written on the back. She's 83 now. She's never called the number. It's been disconnected for 45 years. But she keeps it anyway. Because some promises don't need to be kept to matter. Some promises just need to be made.